Alright, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to teach you how to install a radon system. Now I already have a radon system in my house, but the problem is I have a crawl space with a rat slab and that does not communicate with my main radon system. So therefore radon levels are leaking in through that rat slab, and I know that because I had a couple of radon detectors and I scattered them throughout the basement and I couldn't figure it out. I was getting elevated radon levels and I'm like, wow, I just replaced the fan on my current system. And then eventually I got the idea to put the detector inside that crawl space room, and sure enough I was getting like 8.5 as opposed to the rest of the basement's at like 3.5. So I think the radon's kind of leaking in from that area. Now, before we really get into this video, I want to make a disclaimer. I'm not a radon professional. I'm not a professional contractor. Some areas of this installation may not meet code, so before you consider attempting to install a system like this, please consult a radon professional. Consult your local building department. Ensure that you're installing your system by the proper standards and codes. So with that being said, let's kind of go over things, right? So this is going to be a sub-slab depressurization system. So basically we're going to have a pipe. I drafted this up. This is going to be a little bit hard to see, but we're going to have a pipe with a screen on it, and we're going to dig down a pocket beneath the rat slab in the crawl space right there. We're going to have a rubber boot, so in case I ever need to service the system or disconnect the system from the pipe that goes down beneath the slab, we're going to be able to do that. I'm going to run this pipe inside a chase cavity that I have in the wall, which I've already identified the spot where I'm going to put it. Now the radon fan is going to be in an upper attic space, and this is really important. That radon fan cannot be installed inside the thermal envelope of the building. It cannot be installed inside a finished space. Reason being, if there's some type of leak or issue with this radon fan, it could potentially push the radon gas back into the finished space, and we don't want that. We only want the radon fan in unfinished space. So this will be installed in an attic cavity. And then from there, basically the pipe's going to protrude through the roof. So I have this flashing bracket. I've never done one of these before, so this will be interesting. I know it's always kind of a nervous thing to put a hole in your roof, but I mean, it's really important we get the radon gas out of the house. And yeah, so let's kind of go over some of the components I have. Off camera, I have 40 feet of 3-inch pipe. Of course, I have the flashing, some roofing nails, a couple just regular butt couplers, 445s, a couple 90s. You know, I think it's better to buy more material than what you actually need, because you can just return this stuff if you're not going to use it. Aside from that, I have some silicone, a couple tubes of silicone, because I am going to need to seal up the edges of the slab. I have some galvanized hanger straps, so this is going to be for attaching the 3-inch pipe to the building. Here's the 3-inch butt coupler, which that's going to connect to the pipe coming up out of the slab. I have a couple of these rubber boots, so these are 4-inch to 3-inch. Most radon fans, I think, have 4-inch ports, so this actually just perfectly fits right on either side of my radon fan. And then that, of course, is going to connect to that 3-inch pipe. Some pipe glue. Also have some roofing silicone, right? This is clear silicone sealant for the roof. Not sure if I'm going to need that or not. And here's something really important that you also want to get. And this was very cheap. I'm really happy with this purchase. So this is a manometer. So this basically detects suction, right? Like a drop in pressure, because ultimately that's what we're doing. We're creating a suction system. So after the radon pipe comes up out of the basement, you know, right? You're going to have your butt coupler right above the slab. You're going to have a straight pipe going up, maybe a 45 to shoot it up through the attic. We're going to need to install this manometer close to this butt coupler. And the purpose of the manometer is to show us how much suction we're getting out of the system, and just to see if the system's actually functioning properly. If the system's working properly and we are pulling a good vacuum, one side of the manometer will be higher. And also included in this kit are some stickers, some warning labels, in case anybody needs to do some work on the house later on, they can identify that that is part of the radon system. So first things first, first thing that we're going to need to do here is we're going to need to put a hole in the rat slab. Now, I didn't want to invest in a core drill. core drills are very expensive. I mean, you can rent them, but it like costs just as much to buy a cheap core drill as it does to rent them. So I'm going to be using my Makita miniature hammer drill. I mean, this is just nothing special, and I have a couple masonry bits. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a hole a bit bigger than the pipe, and I'm just going to, you'll see what I do, but I'm going to go down there, make that hole, and just drill these masonry bits through that hole. I'm going to take a good old chisel, a couple chisels, and we'll just chisel that space out, get a vacuum out a cavity, and we'll go from there. So I just finished constructing this cage. This honestly took about an hour. So if you imagine the concrete slab's right about here, so this pipe is going to protrude through that slab. We're going to dig out maybe 5 gallons of material. I hear that's what most professionals recommend. And this cage is going to serve really two purposes. One, to ensure that we don't suck up anything up in the pipe, and also to keep the pipe off the bottom of the pit. What's going on over there?
It's cold.
Not too bad down here. I mean, you have all that nice insulation, huh? Anyway, we're in the crawl space right now. So the main slab of the house is through that little hole and down what do you think, 5 or 6 feet? Yeah, something like that. So this rat slab crawl space is up from the main slab maybe 5 feet or something like that. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like in here. Now we do have a couple issues, right? Like we have a hole in the block right there, hole in the block right there. And over here, you can see this is probably where they emptied out whatever was left in the concrete truck after they poured the main slab. So this porosity is problematic because what we're trying to do, we're trying to seal this slab as much as possible. But of course we got to put the system in first. But that is something that we're going to need to address shortly here. So we're going to need to do some self-leveling concrete, glue that back in. And then those tubes of silicone I got, those are going to be for sealing up this crack where the rat slab meets the block, which this block is just barged over from that side. So yeah, so I've already been up in the attic, which is 2 stories above where we're at, right? So you have first floor and then that attic space. Now I've looked down through the chase where this exhaust pipe for the furnace goes, and this should be wide open right here. Now I'm pretty sure code calls for at least 2 inches between this pipe and combustible material. You can see we have a thimble up there where this pipe goes up through the subfloor there. So I'm probably going to space this off something like 6 inches, maybe even more, maybe 8-10 inches. So what I'm going to do now is drill a hole up through there. Alright, so I have this hole through the concrete slab. I just finished removing material in there. Probably took out about 4 gallons. Good news, on the underside of this slab there is gravel, which is going to help to allow this radon system to communicate throughout the entire slab. If it was just dirt, then, you know, obviously if we're pulling a vacuum here, it's going to have a much harder time going through solid packed dirt as opposed to gravel, packed gravel, right? Because there's more air pockets through gravel than there is through dirt. But anyway, on a quick side note, if I had to do this job again, I would absolutely rent some type of electric jackhammer or something of that sort. I was looking at the prices at Home Depot. To rent one of those is probably like 40 or 50 bucks for 4 hours. That is the way to go. That is absolutely the way to go. Trying to, you know, drill through the outer edge with a little masonry bit and my little Makita driver. That was not working. I eventually switched gears and I went to this 4.5-inch angle grinder with a diamond tipped wheel, and that definitely helped to allow me to get through that hole. So yeah, I'm just going to clean up a little bit here, and then we are going to work on installing the pipe, finally. Yeah, it only took 5 hours to get to this point. Whatever.
Okay.
That's what I say.
While Peter was watching cake making videos.
Yeah. Okay, so we're ready to install our suction screener. And that just fits down in this hole perfectly. So I'm thinking it's a good idea to have a rubber collar right here in case I do need to service this. Which, I mean, it will ultimately be mortared in, but I figure it's better just to have that here now. So I'm making a little mark where this is going to go down halfway so I know it's seated properly. From here, I'm going to have a straight pipe up. Manometer is going to sit right here. We're going to do a 45 and a 45 up and out. From Willy Wonka on the elevator, up and out.
I don't see that movie.
Do you think he was a pedophile?
I don't know.
I kind of think he was.
It was in the 90s, so maybe.
You know what a snozberry is? Alright, so before I start gluing the pipes down in the crawl space down there, I actually want to drop that main pipe up through the first floor here, and in order to do that I need to get up into this little attic space up here. So there was never an access to this attic before I actually put this in the other day. All I did, I just cut out the drywall. Then I installed this trim, and this trim overhangs where the drywall was cut by 1 inch. So when I go to insert this back up in here, it just sits down on this trim. I did 2 layers of rigid insulation to try and maintain the thermal envelope of the building. Now this access space definitely does not comply with code, and I don't have a 10-foot ladder. I have really I need like an 8-foot ladder. This is a 6. So I have to get a little crafty to get up in here, but I put a couple eye hooks up here, installed some webbing, and you gotta kind of monkey your way up into the space. And you gotta be careful not to remove the trim, or not to break the trim. Trying to figure out how to get up here last time. Alright. Now I need my helper to hand me some stuff. Alright, I'm gonna need everything. Alright, so there's that access cavity that I just came up in. I got my tools all set up, got 2 lengths, a 10-foot 3-inch. Have my Makita work light all set up. Now here is the chimney pipe that goes to the boiler, which we've seen down below. And here's that access cavity that I was talking about. So if we look down in here, you see that little hole? Well, that's that circular hole that we put through the subfloor earlier, and this is just a perfect spot to run this pipe up and out. I got very lucky here. So I also have a nail set up right here. Now this is longer than 10 feet. So what I'm probably going to have to do, I'm going to have to put the first pipe mostly down through. I'm going to suspend that up with the ratchet strap. We'll glue a butt coupler on, and we'll add an extension piece. So let's get started. Alright, we are looking pretty good here. So I have that pipe coming down through that cavity. I have it strapped up with some Plumbers Tape. 2 lines of Plumbers Tape. Our pipe in the floor. Now we need to just dry fit everything. So I'm going to do a 45 here. It's going to go towards the pipe. Another 45 here. We're going to do a straight section of pipe here with our service coupler. And we're also going to have the manometer in this pipe right here. So if you're looking through the window opening over there, you can see if the system's operating properly. The only thing that I kind of struggle with is just how long does this section of pipe need to be? This is definitely a little bit tricky because, you know, I'm trying to make everything look professional, make sure everything's level. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to struggle with this a little bit. I'll just try and get it as good as I can get it. That's all you can do, right? Right, now we can have a little bit of fun. So we're going to install the manometer. Here's the manometer, which I'm thinking we got to make sure we keep it kind of low. Liking that right there. That includes self-tapping screws. Just very carefully. Does not need much. Just trying to make sure that this is as level as possible. You know what? I have my level here, and we can make sure that it's perfectly level, which it's somewhat important to ensure that the gauge zeroes out. Okay, now we can remove, there are two caps at the top, and that just ensures that the fluid stays in there, it doesn't leak out. So now we need to set this manometer at 0. So you see the fluid's at 1 right now. What we're going to do is we're just going to push this tube down carefully until it hits 0. So that's it. I'll do that again just in case you want to see what I did there. So you see, sometimes your gauge will come at like 1 or something, or maybe you lose a little bit of fluid over time. All you got to do is just push the U-tube down till it is at 0. There you go. That's that. You know what? I am going to throw these caps back on for just a moment here, because I do need to drill a very small hole for the actual suction tube. So this suction tube, you got to drill just a small hole inside your pipe, and that's what's going to tell the manometer if there is a... Just trying to make sure I have the right drill bit here. But yeah, that's just going to tell the manometer if your system's functioning properly or not. Could just remove that off. Yeah. The hole I drilled was a little bit too big, so I'll have to put a little bit of silicone around that. No big deal. But anyway, I just wanted to note that, take a look at what I did in the bottom of the tube there. I just used some Great Stuff expanding foam, and I just filled up that cavity on the bottom right there. And that's really important, because when I come in here to fill this back up with concrete, that'll ensure that the concrete doesn't fill or fall right down into that nice cavity that we just spent a few hours digging out. And I will have to come back in here at some point and seal up where this slab communicates with the foundation wall, and of course I gotta fill those holes back in, put that insulation back up. But let's go back up in that nasty space and try and finish installing this system. It's a little bit rainy out, so I don't know if I'm gonna get to putting the hole in the roof and installing the flashing tonight, but let's try and be optimistic here, huh? So here's the pipe coming up out of the chase. It's secured with some Plumbers Tape right there. I have a 45 going up. We're in a 2x4 between the joist and the rafter, and also secured the pipe with a piece of Plumbers Tape. And we have the Radon fan just dry fit in the spot where we want it to sit for now. Now, there's another 3-inch pipe that comes out, and it was centered directly on this seam, right? So I actually used a plumb bob and dropped it down that seam to ensure that this was completely straight, and then we're going to be drilling through the same spot. So that way, if you're looking at the back side of the house, these two pipes should be at the same exact line on the shingles. So now we need to figure out whether we're going to go outside.
No.
Oh, it's a little rainy out, so we need to make a determination whether we're going to proceed and cut through the roof, because if we cut through the roof, I mean, there's no turning back. I got to get up there and put the flashing in, so we got to make some decisions. Alright, so here's the pipe coming out of the roof. What's going to happen, I'm going to have my assistant make sure that the pipe's level. I'm going to take my flashing, which is down there, and we're basically going to match what was done here. Alright, so I got the flashing installed. I do want to come back up here and throw a little bit of silicone underneath this because I had to lift up the shingles a little bit. But basically what I had to do, I had to come under here with the pry bar. I'll link a video to a guy who explains this better than I do. But I had to get up under here. There was a nail right here preventing this flashing from sliding up underneath the shingles. So I had to take my pry bar, gently lift up under there, and then pull the nail out from right here. You see I got a little bit of damage. I'm not perfect, but it's going to be fine. The flashing like goes up to here. Maybe I'll take that silicone and I'll seal it up a little bit. But you know, it's not a perfect science. And then anyway, I have a nail right here. Nail under there, so I'm probably going to come back up here and I don't know, lay a bead of silicone here, lay a bead of silicone there. I'm not going to do it under here because I want water to be able to escape here. So yeah, it's the best it's going to get. All right, we're back down in the crawl space, day 2, and I just had to tie up some loose ends here, so I had to put that piece of insulation back up in there. Now where I cut through the floor, I really should get some Great Stuff fireproof caulking or something similar. This is not fire rated, but because I put a penetration through the floor, that really should be sealed up. So that's something on the list that's not going to happen today. What is on the list today is I am going to mix up some mortar, and we're going to finish sealing up where I put a hole through the concrete slab. As you can see, I did take some of that Great Stuff expanding foam just to create a base where I could lay the mortar over top of this pipe. I mean, to be honest, this is probably okay the way it is. And it probably would be easier in case I do ever need to access the bottom side of this pipe. But I'm going to go ahead and seal this up with mortar because I think that is the proper thing to do. And also, this has been bothering me. There's a hole in the block over there, hole in the block over there. For some reason, it almost looks like they took that block out at some point. So I am going to repoint that up. You can see a little bit of brown crud right there. It almost looks like bugs have been coming in through that spot. Also, if you take a look back in the corner over there, you see that brown spot right there? Looks like at one point there was definitely some type of bug infestation in this house. And I'd imagine that's probably an intrusion point right there. So I'm going to do my best to seal that up. And also I would like to pour just something over this. I'm probably going to end up using the Type S mortar that I have and just mixing it up kind of fine and just try and fill in some of the voids here. So yeah, this is the part of job that nobody looks forward to, but it's something that has to be done. So let's get moving here. Alright, so I just finished up the masonry work down here. And everything came out just fine. I did some pointing, areas of the block that needed to be pointed up. I repointed that block, which I showed you that earlier. I have that block, there was a hole in the block right there, hole in the block right there. I have that all coated up. And aside from that, whatever I had left in the bucket, I just added some water, turned it into a soupy mix, which typically, you try not to make your mix too soupy. Because what happens if you make it soupier, when it cures and dries, it has a higher likelihood of cracking. But for an application like this, where I'm deep down in the tunnels down here, and this is all I had left in the bucket, and I wanted to spread it out as thinly as possible, I think now is an exception. But I was just trying to match the finish of the rat slab, which nobody's ever going to look down here. But you know, if it's your house, you know, nobody's going to treat your house the way you do. So I wish I had a little bit more, could use a little bit more right there, but I think it served its purpose. It's going to help to seal up all those potential voids in the original pour of this rat slab. Now I am going to have to come back in here for two reasons. One, I'm going to have to lay a bead of silicone along the perimeter of this rat slab. Like, you see that crack right there? We want to try and seal up all those cracks and voids to the best of our ability, and what that does, that just allows this system to work to the best of its ability. And the second reason I need to come back down here is because I did put a hole through that plywood subfloor assembly, and we want to try and maintain whatever fire separation we have. So I am going to have to come back down here with a can of fire, either fireproof caulking or expanding fireproof foam, something like that. But anyway, I'm going to close out this video. I'd like to thank you for watching. This was a not the most fun project, but you know, it's one of those things. You just got to pony up and get it done sometimes, and we got it done. So I will definitely check back in the comments section in the near future. Original radon readings in this room were at about 8.6. I put the manometer, or no, not the manometer, the radon detector in here last night, and it already dropped 1 point. The rest of my basement, I think I told you, has always been kind of like 3.5. You know, it fluctuates half a point between seasons, but again, I think the radon in this room, because there was no communication to the main system, this is really where that radon was coming up and bleeding through that little access hole right there. So I got some cleaning up to do, heading out to Lancaster, Pennsylvania tomorrow to go and see the Rough and Tumbles operating engineers, see some hit and miss engines and some steam engines. So I probably won't see anybody out there because I'm not popular enough yet, but I will try and take some video out there and get that back on the channel. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.